Welcome to the Sherry Welsh Coaching Podcast. This is Phil Johnson, and joining me today is leadership coach and author Sherry Welsh of sherrywelsh.com. Sherry coaches individuals privately, and she also works with groups within companies. And you can get a copy of her book, which is titled Slowing Down: Unexpected Ways to Thrive as a Female Leader, from any major book retailer. Sherry, thanks for joining us today.
Hi, Phil. Great to be here.
Sherry, today we're going to be talking about how we can make ourselves indispensable at whatever organization we're with. But I think we need to begin the discussion by talking about something that you call role clarity. Now, I think you have a role clarity worksheet that you go through as a role clarity exercise with a lot of your clients. So maybe you could begin today by sort of introducing to us what role clarity is and why it's important.
Sure. Yeah, it's something I developed several years ago, about 4 to 5 years ago, after I'd started my coaching business. And I found what I was coming up against with clients was that, there was confusion as to what the scope of their current role included, because it had evolved over time. And so what was happening was we would spend many of the coaching sessions, working on frustrations and annoyances and aggravations with misunderstandings with colleagues or their team members or their boss as to what they should be doing and their understanding of what their role was currently. So it kept coming back to role clarity for me. So that's what I ended up putting as a title. And I use this work, and I do it with clients, over a period of time. We go through different questions that I ask to probe into what's on this worksheet as an exercise. And it can take, one session, sometimes two, but it's really a slowed down approach to understanding what the purpose is that they're there to fulfill in the current role they've chosen to have.
Yeah.
So many times, and this is what I found for myself too, when I was in my last corporate role in the British manufacturing company for cosmetic packaging, I started there as a global sales leader. And when I started, I had a team of people around the world, and they had been in a regional structure. And so I was converting them into a global customer team structure, which is what I had done in my previous companies. So, when I got into it, I knew what I wanted to create, but that position had never existed before. So I get hired, I start, and 3 months into the job, HR comes to me and says, Sherry, can you write your job description? Because we don't have one for you. And at first I was like, what do you mean you don't have one? That's ridiculous. And so I was a little indignant. My level 2 kicked in, where I was annoyed and frustrated. Mm-hmm. And then I thought about it, and I said, what an opportunity to create my own job description and make it what I want to make it. Yeah. Because there's nobody telling me I can't. So I did, and I put together what I envisioned this particular role to be. So that was my experience of it, and understanding that, first of all, many job descriptions are outdated. They're not in existence. Maybe the position, is new, or they just aren't relevant anymore given the scope of the business, how it's changed.
Or how you've changed.
Right. And what you're bringing to the role different now than when you started it. Absolutely. So that's where I developed, this particular exercise to use with clients, and I use it with teams and groups, and I use it with individuals, and it helps get them excited about, reconnected with the purpose of why they're in the current role that they're in. And then as we go through this, and I'll describe it in a minute, but as we go through it, the meaning of the understanding of their particular role, their current role, why it matters, mm-hmm. how it makes a difference, and why it matters. So that's what the role clarity is all about. It's about really getting clear on what your current role is and loving it, taking ownership of that and being excited and enthusiastic about it again, because you may have kind of lost your zest for it over time because of the confusion that came in, because it's changed, because it's different, because you're not clear, your boss isn't clear, your colleagues aren't clear. And so you start to fall into level 1 and level 2 energy, victim and fighter mode. And this can help you get back into your level 5, level 6 space, which is true partner and visionary of what that role is and how it matters, and really connected with the purpose of the company, the purpose of what you're there to do, and your own personal core values, what's important to you.
Yeah. So as roles evolve over time, or as we personally change over time, it's not uncommon to lose touch with why I chose to be with this company, or what it was about this company that excited me and attracted me, that yes, I want to be part of that. Frustration, confusion, different changes in corporate structure, or with me personally, they
Absolutely.
can kind of cloud all of that, and I lose touch with why I'm there in the first place. So this role clarity exercise helps to bring me back, or reconnect me with my purpose in being with whatever organization I'm with. Is that right?
Exactly. You got it. Yep.
So walk us through a little bit. Of course, we don't have time to do this in the kind of depth that you would do with one of your clients, but can you walk us through how this role clarity worksheet, this role clarity exercise would play out in a coaching session?
Yeah, absolutely. So we start with considering what the mission of the company is that you're a part of, or the organization, if it's a service organization or a nonprofit, or a company that delivers products, manufactures products, depending on what the organization is that you're a part of. We start with really exploring what's the mission that they're on. Why do they even exist? Who benefits from what this organization delivers? Mm-hmm. What product or service they may deliver? Who benefits? What way do they benefit? How does it make a difference for them? Mm-hmm. How does it impact their life? How does it impact the greater good? And it's really digging in, and it takes several rounds of this questioning, because the first answer that I usually get is the standard, whatever the company vision mission statement is. So it's very conceptual, it's very high level. And so we keep going into, all right, who else benefits? Who else? And they get into, well, the customers. All right, how does the customer benefit? Well, they get this for, that. And I said, okay, who else benefits beyond the customer? Well, the consumer, the person who buys it from the customer. Okay, how do they benefit? Who else? And what we finally connect with is how it makes a difference for humanity. Every product or service is in existence for a reason. Mm-hmm. And typically it's a reason to do good in the world in some way, to help someone have a better quality of life, to help someone have a better experience of something, whether it's driving a car or watching TV or whatever it might be. So you want to get to really that connection, that heart connection, which is connecting to a core value.
Yeah. Can you maybe give an illustration from, say, Bosch, where you were for a couple decades?
Yeah. So Bosch is still in the business of providing products that promote safety in vehicles. So they have different electronic control units and different components that promote safety. They also do other components that promote fuel economy and other purposes, but we'll focus on safety products. So when you first ask what mission is Bosch serving, it's to promote safety products in the automotive industry that at a competitive price, that has the highest technology, and that satisfies the customer requirements. Like that would be a classic first response. Mm-hmm. I say, all right, well, who benefits from that technology coming in at a competitive price and that safety? And then the client will say, well, the customer. All right, well, who does the customer serve? Well, they sell to the consumer. Okay, who is the consumer? Well, that's me, that's my son, that's my wife, that's my sister. Okay. So, and how do they benefit? So now we're getting more connected to what's personal to them.
Yeah.
Like why it would matter to this person.
Right.
So then we say, well, how does your sister, your son benefit from having this safety brake product really functioning well from Bosch and being the best it can be? Well, then, it could avoid an accident, could save their life. All right, now we're talking. So basically, you're part of a company that develops and sells products, creates and develops them, manufactures them and sells them, that saves lives. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And so now they get more excited, remembering what they're proud of that the company does. What has them be there each and every day?
Yeah.
So that's the first step, is really connecting with the mission of the company.
That's a lot more exciting as an engineer. I'm doing something that saves lives than looking at some dry corporate statement. Drilling down to how you're improving quality of life. In this case, preserving life, which is pretty important for improving quality of life. With other businesses, it could be creating more enjoyment of life if you're doing something more related to entertainment. But yeah, it seems like you would very often get down to something very fundamental like that.
Exactly. But I also make it really specific for them. So for example, if it's an engineer that I'm doing this with and we get to save lives, right? Mm-hmm. Well, and how does it save lives? How does your particular product and this company, what they deliver, the braking product, how does that save lives? Well, as long as it's working properly, then the driver can stop on a dime and stop the vehicle before it hits anybody else or hits a tree or whatever it might be. So it's the accuracy of what we deliver, the high-tech nature of what we deliver that is saving lives. And say, okay, so that's really impressive. Like there's more to it than just a product that saves lives. So we even go a little further, like connecting truly this person with the mission of the company.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it really gets a hold and is real for them, not just made up, but real.
Yeah. Then as the exercise goes on, you get into that even in more detail with them personally. Mm-hmm. Is that right? Exactly.
So I do. So we start with the company, and I really get as specific as I can as far as the company mission goes, for sure. Like you said, so it's not as dry as just the website mission vision statement that was put together maybe a couple years ago or decades ago, because a lot of times they don't change very often, which is fine. But it's just to bring them to life again and personally connect. Yeah. So then I go to the next level, which is, how does your particular role relate to that overall mission of the company? So they've already started getting a sense of that. What do I specifically do? So in this case, I'll go to one that, engineers are pretty clear with the product they're developing. We'll go to one now that may not be as tangible, and that's marketing, for example. So I've worked with some clients who are in the marketing organization for a company. And so they start to say, well, we look at trends and analyze, regional areas where we could sell our products, and we look at the customer portfolio, we look at what's driving the industry, et cetera, where some of the potential risks are that the downturns are coming. Okay, now that's great, and then so it's again very vague and broad and high level. Mm-hmm. So then we'll say, all right, so what does your particular team create that makes a difference for those people that the company mission is serving and benefiting? And so now we dig into it a little bit. Well, we create reports that we give to upper management. Okay, and what does upper management do with those reports? Well, I guess they make decisions with them. All right, what kind of decisions? Well, decide what products we continue to provide and which ones we stop, or that aren't selling anymore or aren't really in the market anymore. Maybe they decide, where we need to open up a new plant to set up a region that is booming and we're not there. Maybe it's shutting down a plant. Okay, so who's affected by those decisions of shutting down a plant, creating a plant, stopping a product, starting a new one? Who's affected? And so this person, the marketing person starts to say, well, I guess, the employees at the plant. Okay, and what happens to them? If you're providing a report that says this product is no longer interesting and they make a decision to shut down a plant, what happens? Well, they lose their jobs. Okay. And who's affected by them potentially losing their jobs? Well, their family. Okay. And how are they affected? Well, their kids may not be able to go to college. They may not be able to pay their rent. They may be, So now they're starting to see that the work they do matters.
Yeah.
That it has a significance in decisions made that affect the lives of other people, including themselves, because it's all related to the company performance. So this starts to get the person taking ownership of their role and starting to get them more excited about, wow, this really matters here, what we do. It's not just analyzing trends and spitting out reports.
Right.
Because that's what can lose its luster. That can get old after a while.
Right.
Yeah, when you start to lose the connection of what purpose is it serving, what are these reports doing, and getting really clear about that and really specific about it, so that it's not a conceptual, theoretical. Well, I think my reports are being used for this purpose. Well, find out. How do you find out? How do you ask? How do you confirm that your reports are being used at all? Number one. Number two, that they matter. And then it gives you a different desire to show up to work fully engaged and more clear. Now we get into role clarity, right? More clear on what you're there to do and how it makes a difference. And so you can now start to update your own job description to reflect the real purpose of what you're doing or situation or tasks and roles and responsibilities, so that it's current. And you can share that with people in the organization so they start to see what your role is, and it gets more clear for others too, which is now leading a little bit into the indispensable part.
Okay. Yeah. So let's talk about that. I think when we say indispensable, we're talking about increasing your value to your organization, whatever it may be, to the point where they don't want to get rid of you. You're indispensable. So how do we do that, Sherry?
Yeah. And the idea is that you want to really love the work you're doing and have the recognition that it matters by how you're treated by others, how you're showing up, how you're supported by your boss to make things happen. So you may get more access to a bigger budget to do bigger, more creative and innovative things in the scope of your work. So it starts with really looking at what has you be in that role and not somebody else. So we go into, all right, what are the top 3 things that are unique to you that you're bringing to this role? Now, really personally unique, not I'm organized, I have an engineering degree, I have this. Many people have that. So that's not really unique. So the idea is that you want to start to get clear on what it is that's unique about you and bring that into conversations, bring that into the work you're doing so that people can see that you are the right one for this job, that you're the one that belongs here. So that begins the process of being indispensable because they can't imagine anyone else in this role. So you really want to look at what's unique about you. So it could be a characteristic that has you be extremely collaborative, open-minded, the experiences you've had up to this point, how they fit perfectly with this role now, and how it adds value to what the company is up to, how it's totally aligned with the mission. So you now are connecting the dots to how your role and you uniquely fulfilling that role supports the mission of the company.
So in this part of the exercise, you're really going to be getting into your experience and your background a lot.
Yeah, and your passion and your desires and your core values, what's important to you and why that makes a difference in this role. So it could be your leadership style. It could be the way you work well with others to a point that it gets others, moving forward, and you consistently meet deadlines even when they shift. So you're adaptable and flexible, and you bring that in from previous positions you've had. So if you think about the one I did when I was a global sales leader, and I was in my last company, I was a global sales leader creating this new organization where I had to write my own job description. I was able to put in there what was unique about me as I wrote that job description. That I brought in with me global customer team structure experience. Mm-hmm. And I lived it for years. So it's not just that I knew it theoretically by reading about it in a business course, but I had lived it. That's unique about me. Mm-hmm. And my experience of that global customer team structure is going to be different than somebody else's because I'm bringing with it all of my, perspective, my ability to be either open-minded. Living in Germany for 3 years is also unique for me as it related to a global customer team leader role because I had lived in another country to truly experience it from another point of view. Mm-hmm. So that's the depth of what's unique. And that takes some time because many people aren't used to talking about themselves in that level.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it takes, a bit of probing and different questions that I would ask to really explore and discover together what's unique about them. So they get now more excited about it. Mm-hmm. And it's going to set us up for our next topic, which is creating an incredibly vibrant resume that is always current based on where you are, given you never know when that next opportunity is going to be presented.
Yeah.
So we'll talk more about that. So this is an exercise that can help you start to frame and get excited about what you're up to, what you're choosing to spend your day doing in this current company, and how you're loving it and why it fits you perfectly like a glove, just made for you because of these unique qualities that you have.
Yeah. So what do you then do? I've drilled down. You helped me see the mission of my organization. I've seen how my particular role fits in with that mission, and I'm uncovering things that are unique about me that make up the reason why I'm in this position and no one else. Now, right. What do I do with that? Where do I go from there?
Yeah, it's a great question because this is where it all comes down to ownership of the role you're in and the choice you've made to be there and what contribution you want to continue to make that makes a difference for the company and the mission they're serving. So then I talk about, with the client about what 3 things can you do now, today, starting today, to increase your value in this current role. Meaning, how can you get better at what you do? What skill or area of expertise can be expanded from where you are today? And who do you already know who can help you with that inside the company or even outside the company? So it's not that you have to wait to get a budget for training that it's in somebody else's control. Mm-hmm. You can start doing things now that don't cost any money. And it's all about asking for what you want. So, for example, if you are we'll go in that marketing role. Let's say you're a marketing leader in a manufacturing company, and you understand the marketing dynamics. You understand the brand of your company and the offering and what it does in the marketplace. You now know what kind of decisions get made based on the reports that you provide to upper management, the data that you analyze and provide to different product teams. So that's all more clear now. And then it's like, but what can I do to become even more valuable in this role? And this is where it leads to being indispensable. When you continuously increase your value to the organization, and increase your value proposition, then the company's going to have a harder and harder time to think about how, they never want to let you go. They want to continue to make sure you're satisfied and that you're in an environment that has you thrive, versus thinking about how to make it more difficult for you each and every day. Because that happens in many companies that I'm working with. And it's not intentional that they're trying to make it difficult. It's simply that they're not seeing the initiative, they're not seeing the desire and the drive and the steps to take to continuously strengthen what you're doing. So if you're this marketing person, it could be that you don't have a strong financial background. So you might benefit from strengthening that financial understanding of how the numbers come together for the company. What drives the performance of the profitability? And how can that help you do an even better job in marketing? It could be that you don't have a technical background. And so how could understanding the product and the technical aspects of the product help you do a better job in marketing? It could be you don't understand the manufacturing process. How would that benefit you're doing an even better job in marketing and more expanded contribution? Then you ask, okay, so what can you do to learn more about finance, learn more about technology, learn more about manufacturing? And we would brainstorm ideas on what's possible. So it could be you ask a colleague who's in finance, would you be willing to spend 30 minutes a week with me, helping me understand the P&L statement or the income statement, or how the budgets are put together, how the revenue comes in, how it's assigned, how it's allocated, how manufacturing overhead works. Whatever finance area would be beneficial in helping you learn more about the business that you're a part of.
Yeah.
And continuing to connect the dots of how that matters for what you do in your current role. So that's an example of how it's, 30 minutes a day, asking for what you want, asking a colleague, would you be willing over lunch to just talk to me about this? And they may say, you know what, no, that's okay, then find someone else, right?
Yeah.
Who else can help you? Because there's plenty of people that would love to talk about what they do and share that.
Yeah.
Many people love being a teacher and someone an educator that can help others understand their world. So it's really a win-win, a true win-win level 5 request.
Yeah.
That goes back and forth now in the dialogue.
I would expect that there would be even more benefits than that. You're connecting with more colleagues. So you're developing relationships with the people you're working with, and then most likely that communication is going to go both ways. They may turn around and ask you, well, what should I as a finance person know about the marketing department?
Absolutely. Yep, that's true. And it's the idea that then, like you said, as you build relationships with more colleagues and associates in the company, when promotions are coming, you're being talked about by more people now as somebody who's, has initiative to learn more. You have gotten involved in different areas that when you're participating in meetings, your contribution is more focused, more enhanced, broader than strictly my marketing role only. Mm-hmm. And that's noticed. Because promotional opportunities are not discussed with you usually. They're discussed with others about you
right.
when you're not in the room. So the more people that are talking about you, the more people that you develop relationships with in the company, the better odds are you're going to continue to progress in the company and have your value recognized. Even if you don't want promotions, that's fine too. But you can continue to enhance your value and have the organization see how incredibly, what an asset you are.
Yeah.
And that feels good. That makes it all worthwhile. That's why you're dedicating your 10 hours a day, 5 days a week minimum, to this company, to this work that you're doing. It's fulfilling and rewarding when it's more enhanced than it is making the donuts at 4 a.m. day after day after day. Not that that can't be enhanced as well, but.
Yeah. And another great thing about that is you don't need any budget approvals or bureaucratic red tape waded through in order to set up lunch for half an hour once a week with, a colleague from this department or that department. You can just pick up the phone or walk across the hall and start that today.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. You got it.
Well, Sherry, thanks. I appreciate this discussion, and I think it's a discussion, as you alluded to earlier, that will be worth continuing in another episode. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Phil.
And I hope you also have enjoyed this discussion today about role clarity, seeing how becoming this kind of person that knows why you're in a particular position and sees how you personally relate to it, what uniquely you bring to that role, can put you in a position to start making yourself indispensable in the role that you are in right now or roles that you'll be in the future. And in our next episode, we're going to apply this to resumes and take this role clarity exercise and apply it to roles that you've had in the past. So be sure to join us for that. Also, we'd like to encourage you, if this role clarity exercise sounds like something that would be useful for you, give Sherry a call or send her an email. You can find her contact info on her website, sherrywelsh.com. Just click on the Contact Sherry tab and that info will pop right up. Be sure also to subscribe to the Sherry Welsh Coaching Podcast. You can find it on iTunes, Google Play, YouTube, and other podcast directories. For Sherry Welsh today, this is Phil Johnson. Thanks again for listening.